It's DSP's Top 5 DLCs of 2010. Before we announce our top 2 DLCs of 2010, let's take a quick intermission by exploring the absolute worst of the worst and also the most disappointing DLCs of the year. First, what was the most disappointing? Well, to be completely honest, the most disappointing DLC for me might not even be what some consider to be a DLC. Baby. Hopefully they didn't fuck it up again. Sweet. It would be Sega's release of Sonic 4 Episode 1. Now, first of all, let me explain. Sonic 4 Episode 1 was supposed to be a return to the classic 2D style of Sonic the Hedgehog gameplay after nearly more than a decade of 3D iterations which were very lowly rated and not critically acclaimed. So, what did Sega do? They made Sonic 4 Episode 1, which was meant to be the first in a series of episodic content that would basically create a full Sonic 2D installment. Now, in its defense, the game is decent. It's actually a very good homage to the original Sonic games, but I have several problems with this. Number one, they actually took away most of Sonic's moves. In fact, all he can really do is dash in place, and he has a new homing attack in midair, which was actually added during the 3D era. He can't do the speed run anymore. He can't do pretty much any of the abilities from Sonic 3 or Knuckles, and it's just really confusing why they would have taken some of that out of the game. In addition, the game is almost too much of an homage to the originals, meaning that a lot of the bosses, a lot of the stages are actually pretty much lifted straight from the original Sonic series, and this feels more like a redo than a brand new game. And the final nail in the coffin is the fact that this game only has 4 different worlds before you face the final stage. Each one only has a couple stages. Since the bosses are rehashed, there's really nothing original there, and honestly, this game was not very good at all. I really thought that it was going to be up to par with some of the original Sonic titles. It is not. It feels more like almost an All-Stars edition than the all-new iteration. And another question is, where's Tails? Where's Knuckles? Where are all the characters that we grew to love over the years? They're all missing. And if that's an excuse for us to have to go buy Episode 2, well, that's a sad excuse. And really, honestly, if you're going to sell a game, even if it's going to be episodic content, it should feel like a complete game. Sonic 4 Episode 1 does not feel like a complete game. In fact, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that I thought Sonic Colors was actually a much better game than Sonic 4 this year, and if you actually check with fan feedback, there's actually a Sonic fan remix for free online that was made by fans. It's a fan game that basically adds new abilities. The graphics are actually better than those of Sonic 4, and people have rated that game much higher than Sonic 4 Episode 1. So, pretty funny that a 2-man team of fans were able to create a game that was better than the original Sonic games, a better sequel than Sonic 4 Episode 1, and they had no budget and pretty much no development team whatsoever, and they're not charging for their game, so definitely go check it out if you get the chance. Alright, so enough about that. Let's talk about the absolute worst of the worst, waste of your money, ripping you off, no quality. The worst DLC of 2010 is Modern Warfare 2's Stimulus Pack. During a time period when the US economy is at one of its worst points in modern history, money is really scarce, and people are really looking for quality over quantity. This was just a slap in the face. Now, let me explain. People at this time period when the Stimulus Pack map pack was released were already looking for improvements in the gameplay of Modern Warfare 2 Online. At the time, cheating was rampant. People were constantly abusing double shotguns, different game exploits, and it was a horrible experience. And at this point was the time when some people were starting to quit Modern Warfare 2 to move on to other things, and there was actually a community outcry for patches to fix a lot of these problems. Now, previously, Infinity Ward had been famous for actually responding to this kind of deal and patching their game, but there was all kinds of internal turmoil in the studio at the time, In fact, this was the beginning of the rumblings where half of Infinity Ward either got fired or walked out of the company and no longer worked for Activision. Therefore, there was basically no response to the fan outcry. And when the stimulus pack was released, first of all, it was extremely overpriced. It was only a very small handful of maps, some of which people didn't even enjoy. And it was pretty much a slap in the face. I mean, at a time when the U.S. government was looking to stimulate the economy by trying to put money into the hands of banks and other businesses that were going under, calling your map pack a stimulus pack really is just insulting. Like, who's being stimulated here? It certainly wasn't the gameplay of Modern Warfare 2 because none of those fixes or requested improvements were put into the game. In fact, the only thing that really was stimulated were the pockets of Activision when everyone forked out the $10 or so to get these maps and realized it's the same crappy gameplay on inferior maps. So unfortunately, this was really the beginning of the downfall of Infinity Ward. I mean, I think up to that point, when Modern Warfare 2 was released in the fall of 2009, people still had confidence. That's why a lot of people actually voted this game as Game of the Year. But as soon as the stimulus pack come out, people pretty much realized this is the end of really having confidence in this company and believing that they're going to put out a good product, that they're going to be patched and listen to the fans and basically give us what they want. It was just basically release it. It's out there. If you don't like what's abusable or what's wrong with the game, tough shit. And by the way, if you want more maps, pay us a crap load of overpriced money for it. So unfortunately, the worst DLC, way overpriced, should have never even happened, and just a slap in the face, the beginning of the downfall of Infinity Ward, and it looks like, at least for the immediate future, that Treyarch's going to hold the crown for the best Call of Duty games in the series. Up next, we return to our top 10 countdown with the number 2 best DLC of 2010.